Welcome back to the Green Fox Project. How's everyone doing? So it's that time of year again to get your seeds started for your garden. So one of the most important things when it comes to starting your seeds is knowing your last frost date. You want to know your last frost date is because you're not going to transplant your plant into your garden until after that point. Now you don't have to start all your seeds inside. Some seeds you could just plant directly outside after your last frost date. So why wouldn't you plant just everything outside after the last frost date to make it simple? You could do that, but then you have to wait even longer for your harvest. You start them indoors, you get a harvest even sooner. And things like tomato that keep producing throughout the year, once they start producing, you'll have tomatoes all summer long. And then there's other plants that just can't take the heat of the summer. So you want to get them started, get them mature so that the adult plant could handle that heat a little bit better. So how do you know your last frost date? Well, same way you know everything else. Google. Just go into Google, type in last frost date for your state. It'll pop right up. Now once you figure that out, then go ahead and start picking out all the seeds that you want to plant. And on the back of the package, it'll tell you when to start. For instance, this is spaghetti squash, and for the spaghetti squash, it says to start 2 to 4 weeks before the last frost date. Some things are 6 weeks, some things are 8 weeks. Everything has a different start date. So you want to pick out the seeds you want so you can figure out when you're going to want to start planting them. Once you figure out the seeds you want, then you're going to have to decide what container you're going to be starting everything in. Now I want to show you just a couple containers that I have. This container here allows you to start around 70 plants in here. You can start 70 different varieties of plants. I've already got this one started. This is all onions that I'm planting here, and I'm hoping I'm going to end up with around 70 onions. Now, if you don't have something like this or you don't want to go out and spend the money, you could just reuse whatever container you have laying around the house. This is a sour cream container. I've got a taco seasoning container. We've got another, ricotta cheese container that I'm using here. You can also pick up some of these biodegradable container. A word of caution though, when you're using the biodegradable container, the whole concept behind this is that you would start your seeds in here. As they grow out and you're going to transplant them, you just plant the whole thing into the garden bed. But I wouldn't recommend that because these don't break down like they're advertised. So when you when you have your plant in here and you plant it in the ground, this root system don't really break out like they should, and it could actually stunt the growth of your plant. So whenever I use these, I don't plant the cup. I just take them out and plant the plant directly in the ground. So once you figure out what container you're going to use, next is going to be what type of soil you're going to want to use to start. Now, you don't have to go out and get a seed starter mix. You could use whatever potting soil you have around the house. If you don't have potting soil, but you have your garden already going, you could just take some of the soil out of that and use that. Most people recommend that you should use a seed starter mix. I use whatever I have on hand most time. This is just regular generic potting soil. I ran out. I didn't have enough for this stuff, so I went and picked up this guy. It's natural organic seed starter, and that's what I'm going to be using to start some of my other stuff today. Now, I'm not starting everything at once. I'm going to be starting some peppers and some tomatoes today to show you guys how I do it. Now, it's simple. You basically fill these with dirt, and on the back of the package, it tells you how deep to plant the seed. You pop the seed in, you water it, you put it in somewhere where it's going to get sunlight, or if you have a grow light, you put it under the grow light and you wait for it to grow, and you just keep watering it and keep babying it. So let's get started on planting some of these seeds. We're going to do some bell peppers and some jalapenos and also some tomatoes. We've got Roma tomatoes, and I think I liked these. I think these were, what are these? These are Jersey tomatoes. I did these last year and they worked out great, so I'm going to plant them again this year. So let's get started. Okay, so I went ahead and I already filled up some containers with the soil here. Now, once you got your containers filled, what I like to do is I like to add a little bit of water to the soil before I plant the seeds in here. And the reason I do that is because when you wet the soil down, everything kind of floats up and floats around. But if you get it a little wet ahead of time, it'll prevent that. So I'll add some water to these. Not that much. It just needs a little bit to get the soil wet so it all kind of sticks together. So once that's all wet, you figure out which seeds you're going to plant. I'm going to do some tomatoes. Let's go with these Roma tomatoes. It's a packet I used last year. I already have it taped up. Let's open that up. Now, a thing to take note of is on the back of the seed packet, it actually tells you the depth and the spacing for the seeds. We're not worried about the spacing since we're using containers. You would worry more about your spacing if you're directly planting your seeds outdoor because you're not going to move them once they're started to grow. So you'd want them spaced out so they're not overcrowded. But with the depth here, this is about 1/4 inch. You'll find that a lot of your seeds are around that depth. And I just take my finger, poke it in there a little bit. That's about 1/4 inch. That one a little bit deeper. And then I take my seeds and just drop them in. If I could get them out of the packet. Okay. So I like to plant about 3 seeds in each container, and that assures me that I'm going to have something that at least germinates, because not all your seeds are going to germinate. Now, if all the seeds do germinate, all you got to do is just pick out the weaker looking seeds and let the stronger one grow. Once you drop your seed in, just go ahead and cover them up with some soil. Just lightly tap on top of it. You don't want to push them down real deep or make the soil real compact. We'll just pop that one in here. So after you plant your seeds, you could go ahead and just water them again with your container, or you can use a spray bottle and just spray them down. Now this prevents the seeds from washing up, from dumping all that water in there. Either way, just get them wet. So once you got your seeds planted, don't forget to label your containers. I'm just gonna write on the side of the container what everything is. On these biodegradable containers, you can already see that it starts getting wet. Sometimes I write on here with a Sharpie and it just kind of washes off over time. You could use a popsicle stick and stick it in there. Just make sure you label them so that you know what they are, because once they start growing, you might not be able to identify what that is until it's more fully grown, especially if you're growing 2 different varieties of the same thing. You want to know what that is. And that's basically it. I'm just going to put these under my grow light. If you don't have a grow light, you could just put them in a sunny windowsill or somewhere where they're going to get some sunlight. And you could also just move them outside when you have those nice warm days in the winter so they get sunlight. But that's about it, people. Don't make this complicated. Don't be afraid to start gardening. Just get out there and try your best and try to do something. Don't worry about failing, because we're all going to fail. We're all going to screw something up, and we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to get out there and have some fun. So happy gardening this year. Hope this helps someone. God bless. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.